Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and today I wanted to get a video up to discuss the upcoming sale that's slated for November 20th through December 2nd. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the IAE, it's an in-game event called the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, and it's been at several places around Stanton, but this year it's taking place at the Tobin Expo Center, which is on Microtech, specifically at New Babbage Landing Zone. You can be able to take the trains after you fly into the New Babbage area and follow the signs. You'll get on the right train, and then it'll take you to the Expo Center, and that's essentially where you're going to be able to, check out ships by various manufacturers on these different days. But what that actually means for you, all aside from being something different that you can see in the verse, is a little bit different, And this is essentially becoming the face of the anniversary sale, which I'll remind you doesn't mean cheaper ships, but what it means is that there's ships that aren't always available for purchase are all likely going to be up for sale now. Now, typically what you'll see is a ship manufacturer per day, and you can go down to the ships in the game. You can click on them, you can rent them, you can fly them for a little while. But in real life, you can also go onto the RSI website, and then you have access to purchase with real money the ships that are being displayed in the game for that day. Now, there are some caveats to that, so let's go ahead and run through what I'm expecting out of each day at the Expo. The first day out of the Expo is November 20th, and that's going to be sponsored by Argo Astronautics, Grey Cat Industrial, and Consolidated Outlands. Now, out of that group, there wasn't a lot that has been super limited, with the exception of the Pioneer. So I'm expecting to see a schedule where you end up having an F5 refresh battle for people who want to get their hands on this kind of frontier-type base-building ships. Now, those being as limited as they are, I'm not expecting CCUs to be available to them in the ship upgrade store, so be prepared to either purchase those outright, or potentially they may make some available through a non-war bond pricing model, but if that ends up being the offered, it is going to go very fast, so make sure you're being prepared ahead of time. Now, aside from the Pioneer, though, I think you will end up seeing more, like the ships, kind of like the entire Mustang line is going to be for sale. From Grey Cat, you're going to have the Rock and the Mole. In Argo, you should be able to see the MPUVs, both models, and the SRV. Now, it is worth noting that none of what I'm sharing is guaranteed, but it is likely based on what I've seen in years before. November 21st brings one of the largest ship producers to sponsor, and that's going to be Aegis. Here there are 3 ships that have been limited, being the Idris M, the Idris P, and the Javelin, all of which are likely to go on very short sales, like I mentioned with the Pioneer. Now, these are capital ships, so the number available is typically very limited. Now, the Nautilus is also made by Aegis and will likely be for sale. And while it wasn't super limited during the actual concept sale, I would say that it is a borderline capital ship. It at least carries the small risk of being on a limited sale here as well. Now, as a mine layer with a very expensive price tag, sure, it's got big guns on one turret. I'm not sure there's going to be enough interest for it to be a limited ship, so it might just kind of handle that on its own. Other ships that would be available for you to purchase if you've been waiting for them would be the Avengers, which also includes the Warlock EMP one, which isn't always available. I would also expect to see the Gladius and the Saber as well. Now, where I'm not sure on how this is going to be treated is with the Masters of Flight version, such as the Renegade, the Comet, the Valiant, and the Gladius Pirate, or even the Gladius Pilot. The Masters of Flight versions are the ones that I'm really questioning here. As far as the Gladius Pirate Edition, I think you're going to be able to see that as up for purchase, assuming that you've already completed the tag or the badge that you need to do in Arena Commander. But for Masters of Flight, to my knowledge, they haven't gone back up for sale yet, so I'm not counting on it. But I easily could have missed it, and this would be one that would be an interesting chance to actually snag one if they did make it for sale. Other Aegis ships are the Retaliator base module, the Bomber, the entire Vanguard line, the Vulcan repair ship, Eclipse, Hammerhead, and Reclaimer. Now, the Redeemer's also had some reworks that have been shared, so it is very possible that it goes back up for sale as well. It's a lot of ships that will likely be up, so if your day is a Vanguard day, or I'm sorry, Aegis day, just be prepared if you have to melt and buy stuff that it's in buyback. November 22nd is when we get the other big combat brand coming to sponsor the day. That's Anvil Aerospace. Anvil's an exciting brand because for some reason the majority of their ships are flyable in the game, with the one exception really being the Crucible repair ship, which means they should have a very busy expo floor. I'm expecting the Crucible being for sale on the website, but I don't expect that you'll see it at the expo hall, except for maybe in a hologram. Now, aside from that, you'll have a lot of fighters, including the entire Hornet line, except for maybe the Masters of Flight Heartseeker. You'll have the Anvil, the Arrow, the Hawk, the Super Hornet, the Hurricane, and beyond those fighters, you're likely also going to see the Terrapin Gladiator Valkyrie dropship and the Carrack. Now, I don't really see anything from Anvil that seems to be very limited sales, so you should have all day to try and get your hands on whatever you want if you're buying with real money. November 23rd brings the new hot brand Crusader Industries along with Tumbrel and Kruger. Tumbrel and Kruger are pretty straightforward with the P52 and the P72 that are being available for purchase, which are fun, but they're not exactly rare, with the exception of the St. Paddy's Day Emerald version of the P72. So we'll have to wait on that, although I doubt that one ends up coming up for sale. Tumbrel is going to bring the entire Cyclone line as well as the Ranger line, and aside from that, the Nova tank is made by Tumbrel and should be available for sale on the website as well, but not for seeing in the game aside from maybe on a holo table. Crusader, though, this is where we may get our first look at the Mercury Star Runner on live servers. We all know that it's out now on the PTU, but it is possible that it may come out a couple days prior, but my guess is it's actually going to hit live on this day and live. Now, Crusader also makes the Ares, Inferno, and Ion. They make the Hercules line, including the C2, M2, and A2, as well as the Starliner. Of this group, the A2 is the only one that I think has a chance to be limited, so if you're really looking for a Moab bomber, be ready. Crusader has become my favorite new manufacturer and plays very close to my favorite overall brand, being Aegis. November 24th is when we get Mist Day, and is another brand that we have a lot of flyable ships with. Ships like the Reliant series, including the Kore, the Tana, the Sen, and the Mako. You have the Freelancer, the Max, the Dur, and even the Mist should be up for sale, which isn't limited when it comes out, but it isn't always available either. Now, you also end up having racers that are like the Razor EX, the Razor LX should all be available, as well as the Starfarer and the Gemini. None of those are limited, but they are all flight ready at this point. Now, as far as ships that are likely for sale but aren't really flight ready, that would include the whole A, B, C, and D, along with the whole E being the wild card. It has been limited to some degree as the largest cargo hauler in the game, so while I do expect it to be available for anyone that wants to spend the real money, there is a possibility that it ends up being a limited batch. November 25th starts up Drake Day, and there is a good amount of ships here that are flight ready as well, meaning that you should be able to buy them or rent them, and that's going to be your Dragonfly hover bikes, the Herald Data Runner, the Cutlass Blue, Black, and Red, the Buccaneer Fighter, and the Caterpillar. Now, as far as the non-flyable ships that should be ready for you to buy on the website, that would be the Vulture salvage ship, which is one of the ones that I'm actually considering this year as I got rid of my Reclaimer, but also the Corsair, which is a pretty well-rounded jack-of-all-trades ship. All of what I just mentioned for Drake should be non-limited and easy to get. However, the Kraken and the Kraken P have both been very limited as fleet carriers because they have a lot of space and a lot of options. So these are the two that I think we're going to most likely see being sold in very small batches without CCU options available to them. Now, November 26th is going to bring your primary Alien Day, starting with Aopoa, offering the hover bike Nox and Talon. Through the Talon, though, was a sales concept variant, so I'm not sure if that's going to be available at the IAE. But especially considering I don't think we've ever seen the Yellow Jacket Dragonflies available outside of the original concept either, so TBD. They're also going to bring the Car2 All and the Santaki I fighters from the GN manufacturers. Also on Alien Day is going to be your Banu Defender, and finishing up that day is going to be Aspiria, which is a human brand, but they do make alien recreations. Now for Aspiria, I would count on seeing the Prowler, the Glaive, and the Blade. The unknown is going to be the Scythe, because that ship is actually in-game a captured Vanduul fighter and is not in a human recreation. So if the Scythe goes for sale on this day, I do expect to see that one be limited. I didn't mention one other ship, and that was going to be the BMM, the Banu Merchantman, which hasn't been very limited to date. However, it's been growing in price and in size, and it's just been climbing and climbing and climbing. And I feel like it's approaching capital class size. And that means that there's at least some possibility that we get to a limited stance or limited stock. So keep an eye on where this is if you're interested, because anything could happen, though I think it should be easy enough to pick up, though it's starting to get pretty expensive to make it happen. Up next on November 27th is Origin Jumpworks, which is your luxury brand of the verse. They're almost certainly going to have a large number of ground vehicles for sale, including the X1 Base, Velocity, and the Force hover bike, as well as the new Rovers being the G12, G12R, and G12A, none of which are in-game, so likely only to be seen on the website or in holo models. In flight-ready ships, I'm expecting to see the models at the Expo for the 85X, the 100 series, and the 300 series, as well as the 600i, Touring, and Expedition. The 890 is always a little bit of a wild card because while I expect it to be on the site on site at the Expo, it has historically been available for sale on the website, but in limited numbers. Now, I think we're likely getting to a point where this market is a bit saturated and people who want to spend the real money on this ship are likely lower. So it is possible that the price point will just regulate this ship from now on and it won't be a limited ship anymore. Either way, if you want the luxury yacht, just be ready in case it ends up being up for sale in limited batches because it's not sold very often. The second to last day, November 28th, is going to be Robert Space Industries ships, which many that are flight ready should be in the showroom. That's going to include all 5 of the Aurora series, the Constellation Andromeda, Aquila Phoenix, as well as the Mantis Quantum Interdiction ship, plus the Ursa rover, and potentially the Green Fortuna variety, although I'm not expecting that Fortuna one to be available because it was a special promo. There are 3 concept or white box ships that are ready, that are not flight ready, that should all be available for sale on the website, and that includes both variants of the Apollo medical ship plus the Constellation Taurus. Now, RSI does have 3 limited ships, and we'll have to see how well those sales are handled. The first I already mentioned is going to be your Phoenix, that will be on display, but will also be on for sale on the website. But we're not sure if that's going to be limited batches or not. I think the last few times it was up for limited sale, they did not sell out of it, and because of that, they may just open it up on, for a normal sale, or they'll create that kind of artificial scarcity, and it'll be up for sale, but it won't actually be hard for you to get. The RSI Orion mining platform is big and expensive and typically has been offered as limited too, but I honestly don't know why it would retain that status. So I personally expect it to go for sale unlimited, but it is one that I would be ready to buy if you know that's one you're wanting to pick up during the sale. The last one is the Polaris, which I'm also not sure if it's going to be limited or not. It sold a ton during the original concept, but I think it's been released in limited batches, and with it likely being the first or real next capital warship coming, they could want it to limit the number of them to some degree for scarcity purpose. So kind of keep an eye out for further communication because I don't think you can count on it just being available for anybody, even though historically it kind of has been. After that, we have about 4 days of the Best in Show Awards, which is where ships get a new skin for the event that you can choose to apply to your ship if you have it. So, for example, if you already own an 890 and the 890 is voted one of the best in class or best in show, then you may be able to apply a new skin to your 890 or decide you don't like the look and not do it. They also call these days that are going to be weapons and armor as well as ship rentals. So what I'm hoping here is that the expo halls get added with all of the clothing and armor in the game because it would really be clutch to just go there and stock up. And the same goes for weapons since they're all over the verse at different stations, and it would be really nice just to be able to pick them up at one central location. Now, the most interesting one to look at is going to be the ship rentals. Typically because you just walk around the halls and interact with the model on the floor, you click rent and then you get it for 24 hours. But there's been feedback that 24 hours isn't enough time and that it's hard to get on every day to see all of the ships. So I'm guessing what they're doing is going to be listening to that feedback and moving all of the rentals back into the end of the event and doing it through a terminal. So they're basically going to say that you have multiple days to come and rent whatever you want. That's my assumption is what they're doing to try and accommodate more citizens. The last note that I want to cover here is the length of the insurance that these ships will get. It typically mirrors the year of the event to how many years of insurance. With, for example, the second year of anniversary sale giving you 2 years of insurance on any purchases. The next was 3, the next was 4, and so on. The problem is that this is year 9, I think. And I kind of think 8-year insurance last year was already kind of crazy. And the number just keeps getting more and more absurd. So I think they are at a point now where it's almost going to make sense to end that practice and either just give everything sold at the event LTI or just set a standard anniversary sale insurance length at like 5 years or something. And I'm not sure how they're going to handle it, but just know that it's likely going to either be better insurance than you would buy if you bought it outside of the sale, worse insurance than you would get if you bought it before the sale or when it was in concept, but it's likely going to be somewhere in between those areas. So with that, I hope you got a good idea of what's coming during the Expo event. If you have any questions, get them in the comments. Otherwise, happy shopping. Enjoy the show because it's not something that may be necessarily amazing, but it is something that's fun and different that we don't always get to see. So thanks for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day and take care.